All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for all coming out today. We really appreciate it. This is our last session for emergency preparedness that Age Friendly Saco is doing. We got a grant from the University of Maine Center for Aging to do this project, so we're really appreciative of that. My name's Joe Morshed. I'm the community connector with Age Friendly Saco, and I've been on the job since last fall doing projects such as this. So before we dig in, let me tell you, you all saw the restrooms. Maybe you didn't, maybe you did. But if you go down the hall and take a right, it's right there on your right. I got to remember to keep this thing in front of me. I hate this thing. We have some fruit, cookies, and water for you over there. And then we have some other things that we plan on giving you at the end of the session today. So before we launch, I want to make some introductions. First, I want to recognize Gene Saunders, the Executive Director for Age Friendly Saco, back there. We have a bunch of Age Friendly Saco volunteers here. If you could just stand up, Dennis, Diane in the back who did the registration, Lucy Hatch, Nancy Driscoll who's our treasurer. And we have a special guest from AARP, Carl Toney. I'd like to introduce him as well. He's in the room with us. And this is being filmed by Saco Communication Department. So if you don't want to be on video or whatever, say so, or hold your peace. So today is all about resiliency and about how do you go through an event and how do you come out on the other side. That's really what we're talking about is resiliency when we talk about emergency preparedness. And so this is one of the areas we want to focus on. And so we've got a great panel here. I'll introduce them. Fire Chief Dave Hamill, Rebecca Lyons from the Saco Police Department, social worker. Is it Andy or Andrew? Either. Dickinson, Saco Communications, Ryan Summer, who's the director of Saco Parks and Rec, and Sophie Smith, who's the executive director of the Dyer Library. And a special thank you to Sophie for hosting these 3 events that we've had here. So far, so good. So with that being said, I want to just jump right into this thing so we can get going. And the first speaker we're going to have today is Fire Chief Dave Hamill, who's going to talk about 911 and everything else that's going on with Saco Fire Department and EMS. So with no further ado, Fire Chief Hamill.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me okay? Hi. Thank you for the introduction. So again, my name is Dave Hamill. I am actually tomorrow, I'll be your fire chief for 6 months. So tomorrow's a little anniversary. But I've been with the Saco Fire Department for almost 23 years. I've been a firefighter, paramedic, so serving in your community and fortunate enough to be your fire chief now. So like we were talking about, before we really get into the kits, we wanted to really talk about 911 and what happens kind of when you call 911, when should you call 911, and kind of what that process looks like. So surprisingly enough, 911 is not housed within the fire department. So 911 dispatches over at the police department on Store Street. So when you call 911, there's typically 2 dispatchers there. There's one that takes care of calls that are police related, and then there's one that takes care of calls for fire and EMS related. So typically when you call, they're going to ask you, kind of what the emergency is, and that's when you're going to kind of let them know, we need an ambulance, we need a fire truck, we need a police vehicle. And if anyone has ever had the opportunity to call and request an ambulance, they're going to ask you a whole lot of questions. I know everybody's shaking their head. Yes, I know. And there really is an important reason for that. When they're asking you questions because they're trying to determine exactly what you need for resources at your house at that time. So while the questions can be somewhat annoying and you're just trying to get that ambulance coming, please do realize that while they're asking you those questions, the ambulance is already on their way to your house. So very frequently, sometimes depending on what the problem is or what the complaint is, you're going to get just an ambulance. So we run a paramedic service, so meaning we have paramedics on our ambulances. We also have them on our engines. We also have a paramedic fly car that might go as well. So, and I've heard it 100 times, why do fire engines show up when we need an ambulance? That's your reason, because we know we need more personnel and there's probably paramedics on that engine to help kind of with the emergency. So again, they're going to ask you a bunch of questions, and really depending on what they get for answers for you, that's going to determine on the level of response you're going to get to your home. We'd always say we'd rather send too many and not need them than not send enough and need more individuals. A lot of emergencies, really, time is of the essence. So we just as soon send the right amount of people. So another questions we host all the time, I'm not sure when to call 911. Should I call 911? Is this really an emergency? And really the default answer is call 911. If you're not sure, we would rather you just call and we'll kind of make that determination. You are more than welcome to call the fire station. But I can tell you, especially on nights and weekends, if everybody's out on a call, there's an answering machine. There's nobody there specifically to just answer the phone. So if you have a question whether this is a medical emergency or not, you may call and nobody will be at the fire station, which is why we kind of default, just call 911. We know somebody's going to be there. We know somebody's going to answer your call. And that probably, we'd rather you call and not need it than to not call and when it is a true emergency. So again, a separate dispatch center on Storer Street where the police department is, and there is no dispatch center at the fire department itself. If you call and somebody's there, they're going to answer the phone and hopefully answer your questions, but the dispatch center is on Storer Street. So we talk about emergency preparedness. In addition to being your fire chief, I'm also your emergency management director for the city of Saco. We work with York County and local departments when we have larger scale incidents, whether it be a weather-related incident or some kind of incident within the city that is a little bit more than just your run-of-the-mill kind of incident. So we've all been kind of familiar with some of the storms we've had. Knock on wood, we've had a pretty good year so far. We know April is coming, and we know the weather can change kind of on a dime. But we're really talking about emergency preparedness. And we'll kind of talk about the process and what happens when we know that there is a storm coming. Typically, all the department heads will meet if we know we're having, say, a weather-related emergency, and we'll talk about, what are we expecting? Are we expecting flooding? Are we expecting, high tides and things, things of that manner? Are we going to be looking at potentially opening up a shelter or a center? So we start having those discussions really early in the week. And Andrew, I'm assuming he's going to talk about the Code Red at some point today, and that really is it's a program where we can kind of keep the information for you folks through your phone or text messaging and things like that, and I'm sure Andrew will probably hit on that shortly. But in these meetings, we do as much preparedness as we can, but understanding that when the storm comes, so if it's a weather-related storm and we know high tides, we're at the mercy of the storm as well. And really, once the storm comes, we're kind of letting it ride out a little bit. We'll try to get the notifications out. And sure enough, every year when we ask, if a bigger storm is going to be coming down to Camp Ellis, and we recommend people, evacuate, they choose not to. It always tends and never fails that somebody they need us, when we can't get to them. So a lot of times we'll talk to them over the phone or try to kind of ride things out and go from there. So, sorry, the kits that you're going to get later on today, there's going to be a lot of informational stuff in there. And really, these are foundational kits. And I have a little, you're going to see in your notepad there, it's kind of a cool little saying. It says "Pee before you go," but it talks about some important things you're going to want to have in your kits. And again, these are just kind of startup kits, so there are things that maybe just personal documents, pictures, and things that maybe really just in particular with you, we want to make sure they get in those kits. So just kind of talking about the 6 Ps before you go. The first are people and pets. Ryan's going to talk a little bit. If we have to open a shelter, there's been questions, can we bring our animals? And the answer is yes, and I'll let Ryan kind of expand on that a little bit. The next thing they talk about are papers, important documents, phone numbers. And we talk about important documents. That can be like medication lists, allergies lists, phone numbers, things that are, insurance information, things that really are kind of important to you that if we need to start making phone calls or, things that we don't have necessarily, we're just able to remember, we're going to write things down and to help recall. Prescriptions, medications, and glasses. If you have a spare set of glasses, readers, or whatever, you have an old pair, put them in your kit. That way, if something happens to your primary ones, we have your secondary glasses. Your prescriptions, we talk about having a list. If you could have a little pill bottle, that may be good for a week. Just having some spare medications in case you need them. Pictures, irreplaceable things. Those are the big things. Even when we have larger incidents with fires and things like that, typically once the fire's out, one of the first things we're going to go back and try to get are things that just can't be replaced, like pictures, and those are really important, and we try to get those to you. So if you have the ability to bring some of those with you in part of your kit, you should. Cell phones, tablets, laptop chargers. So cell phone chargers, or any means to charge your tablet or your cell phone. If you have a spare cord, or not, pick one up and just throw it in the kit and leave it in there. The last thing you want to do if you're in a hurry to leave is try to run around and figure out, oh, where did I plug my cell phone in, or my tablet. And then plastic, so money, credit cards, bank cards, things like that. If you have a spare debit card, or you can always get one from the bank, and just kind of keep it as an emergency card or emergency credit card, keeping it in there in case you need to use that for anything. As far as placement with these kits, we usually tell people, one, if you can, try to keep it in your bedroom, or in a common area. You don't want to have you be moving these around every month, or just leaving them kind of in the corner somewhere, because then you're going to forget about them. So by your bed, or by the door that you typically leave. That way you can just kind of grab it and go. But you have it in a common area. If you have more than one kit, kind of keep them together. And these are really good, these are good kits to go through once a month or once every couple of months, just to make sure that, if you have batteries in there, you can check them. Maybe you remember to put something in your kit that, you just haven't got there yet, just to kind of update your kit. If you have medications that you keep in there, if you have an expiration date, you can kind of put on a piece of tape or whatever and put it on your pill bottles. That way, if you just kind of need to keep things updated, it's probably it's a good habit to get into. Questions? Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
I have a 911 question. When the ambulance comes, do our taxes pay for that, or do we have to pay for that out of pocket?
A little bit of both. So yes, your taxes do pay for that. We bill your insurance company, and typically your insurance company will pick up. Yeah, it'll be part of the medical bill. As far as if you call for a fire engine or anything like that, no, there's no charge. And we, so medical would go to your insurance, and if there's a fire call or something like that, no, that's where your taxes come in. You're welcome. Any other questions? It's an easy group.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, please feel free. We want this to be interactive, so at any point, if you have any questions, just raise your hand and you'll be recognized. We want to really make sure that everybody's questions get answered. One thing that's not on the P list, and this is a hack in the event that you need to get out of the house, grab your hamper with your dirty clothes in it. If you need a change of clothes, they might be dirty, but at least they'll be in season and they fit you. The last thing you want to do is have to get evacuated in the middle of the wintertime and find out you've packed your Bermuda shorts, in your kit. So that's just a hack that, if you can think about it, go ahead and grab your hamper. Our next speaker is Rebecca Lyons, social worker with the Saco PD.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us here, our third session. So good turnout. So first off, Rebecca Lyons. I'm the social worker with the Saco Police Department. Primarily, I follow up on calls for service, so that's law enforcement and EMS. Really just reaching out, checking in with people, seeing if there's any resources that may be helpful, and providing support. I also coordinate with providers, the DA's office, law enforcement for any questions. The chief is very supportive, and I really get a wide range of what I can do in supporting our community. So we're going to start off with homework. So you guys have a pen there, and I'm going to have you pull out your code red sheet. It's going to look like this. So while you're pulling that out, I'm just going to go through a couple questions and guide you through this process. So first, at the very top of it, you can check off if you're updating an existing form. If you've already done this before and you need to change an email address or a phone number or just add it to it, you can do that. If you don't know if you've done a form already, just check that this is a new registration. So adding your name and address. And down below, you can get these notifications a couple of different ways. One is voice messages. You can get a text if you have a smartphone, and of course, email. So you can add multiple ways of contacting and also different numbers. So if you want to add your number, maybe your kids that live in another state so they know of any notifications that are happening, you can add their number too. Okay. Andrew's going to go through a little bit more of what they're going to send out and when they're going to send that out. We had a few questions last session, so he's going to speak to that. Great. So if you guys want to fill those out, I'll collect those at the end of the session, and then we'll have Andrew here, who's so wonderful. He'll add that into the system for us.
It's going to say for managing it ourselves, we can do this online.
You can do it online. Yes, absolutely. So if you know a neighbor, feel free to, they can do it online. You can go to City Hall. They'll help you out with that. And I think that we probably have some extra forms on the way out if you want to pick up some for other people. Okay, we really want to get this out to people.
If I could just tack onto that, because that's a great question. The one main benefit of signing up online yourself is that in the future, something changes, you get a new cell phone number, you can log back in and update it yourself instead of having to come to us with a paper form again. So if you're comfortable with that, it is a preferred method.
Awesome. Thank you. The next piece of information, this isn't something that you need to do here today. I'm going to be talking about the medical information form. So it's going to be an orange slip of paper, cardstock, and it has two sides. I'm not even holding it up. Here you go. So this is really information for EMS if they come on scene. It's a medical information form that you put on your refrigerator. So we did, actually, Age Friendly Saco, put together the plastic folders and magnets on the back, so you can just slip it in there. So adding your medical information, emergency, allergies, and prescriptions on the back, so that if they need to come, they have easy access to information. If it's an emergency and they need to just grab it and go and take it to the ER, they may do that. One of the other things that we talked about in our session was the DNR forms. That's really critical to put in there if you have one, knowing that EMS, they need to see it in order to implement it. Another thing that you can put in there is a POA, paperwork for that, if the ER may not know who your POA is. Okay, so critical information, slipping it all right here into this little plastic case and putting it on your refrigerator. EMS will come on scene and they will look for that. Okay. In your packet, you only have one of these orange cards. If you have someone else in your home, you need another one. I think we have more as you leave. You can pick those up, okay? Or pick them up for a family friend, okay? Lastly, in your packages, you should have the brochure of my role within the police department. I think they may have been short some, so if you don't have one, I can get you one. So basically, it just goes over a little bit about my role at the police department. Down below is my direct office number. It's really small, but it is right down in the bottom corner. Feel free to reach out. Even if you just want to run something by me, hey, I have a question. Social services, it's a big, complex system, and I'm learning something new every day, so I am happy to share that information. On the back side is helplines. So whether that's crisis, the main warm line, which is a non-crisis support line, the teen text line, there's a lot of different ones on there. So if you would like, you can put it on your refrigerator and have easy access to a lot of different resources. Okay.
Most people probably don't have that flyer in their packet because we did run out before we stuffed all the packets, but there are some by the back exit, and we have some others laying around the library for you to take if you don't get one from Rebecca.
Yeah. So you can also contact me. You can go on to the city website. I am on there with my contact information, my number, my email, and or you can always stop by the police department. Just ask for the social worker person. They'll know exactly who you're talking about. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay.
All right. Next we'll have Andrew Dickinson talking about communication from the city of Saco. And he's also the one responsible for his colleague up here who's doing the filming. So thank you for that.
Thank you. As he said, my name is Andrew Dickinson. I'm with the communications department, and I'm actually going to ask you to swap me mics because the power switch on this one is flicking. The reason we're recording this presentation today is so that others in the future who couldn't fit into the limited registrations we offered for this are able to learn the information that we're sharing with you all as well. So I'll just add on that anyone who is watching this video later, if any of these resources interest you, please reach out to us in the communications department. Our contact information is on the city website at sacomaine.org. We'd be happy to get copies for anyone who is watching this later to make sure that you can feel as prepared as hopefully everyone here will feel when they leave the room today. So the communications department in Saco assists residents with by connecting them with information from all 16 municipal departments. So a little bit in my section here, we're going to veer away from emergencies and just on to ways that we can stay connected with you throughout the year on everything that the city has going on, which is often quite a lot. So everything from assessing to finance to wastewater treatment. And we do this by managing the city's website. We put out a newsletter. We do public meeting broadcasts of city council, planning board, and assisting with the technology for the school board meetings. We do social media, and we provide departments with long-range planning and communications support. So we're all over the place. We're very well connected with what all of the departments are up to. So I want you all to also think of us as a resource for you. If you're ever unsure of where to go, where to try to get help for something you're trying to accomplish, our phones are always open, our emails are always open, and we'd love to help connect you with that information. So in your packets is the City of Saco Communications Resources handout. This is a big page of text that has a lot of information that you can reference in the future for how to contact fire department administration office or sign up for our newsletter or what newspapers we send information to, things along those lines. So what I'm going to do this afternoon is just briefly run through the list, and then I'd offer to y'all, if you have any questions, snag me after we're done, and I'm happy to answer any questions and chat with them about any details. We'll open it up to quick questions as well. So I want to first talk about the emergency alert signups that Rebecca just mentioned. We have many methods on this sheet of paper that I just referenced for how we stay connected with you. Emergency alerts are only going to come to you if there is some type of threat to public safety or a potential threat to public safety that we need to notify people about. So, for instance, last week there was some reported threat at one of our local schools. The threat was deemed to be unreal, quick enough that no alert was sent out. So if we know right away, we don't need to buzz everybody's phones and cause some kind of panic. We're not going to. If there's some short, limited traffic detour because of a water main break, we're not going to reach out to you because there's no threat to public safety there. But if there's something like a coastal storm, like the chief was talking about, where people's homes may become inaccessible to first responders, or coastal flooding could cause issues, safety issues, we will send them out then. This is primarily managed day to day by our dispatch center at the Saco Police Department. So they'll be in the know in the moment, and they will log into the emergency alert system and send you these alerts. The last thing I want to mention about the emergency alerts is we have had some signups where people check a box for a voice call or a text message, but they don't put their phone number. So I don't know all your phone numbers. And so if you could help me out by just making sure you complete that form fully. If you don't, we'll use the address you gave and we'll write you a letter and we'll follow up and make sure that it gets input correctly. But I like to make that point. So running through the resources on this sheet that we're handing out in your packets. At the top, as Chief said, if you're ever unsure if what you need help with is an emergency or not, just call 911. If you know that it's not an emergency, we need to contact dispatch or police administration. Both of the phone numbers are there. And Rebecca's phone number is listed also as Saco Police Community Engagement Specialist. The fire department non-emergency line is there also, as you heard from the chief. Might not always be staffed, especially in the middle of the night if they're busy with calls. But all the staff at all these facilities are there to help you out. The email newsletter. So I don't know, in this room, some of you may or may not be comfortable using email, using the internet, using social media websites. If you are comfortable receiving emails and signing up for an e-newsletter, I personally think this is the best way to stay connected with the city. You don't have to hope that a social media algorithm shows you our post. You don't have to go to our website and check our news section. Twice a month, we'll send you an email. It'll have everything that we've posted online in the last 2 weeks included in it. And anything that might be just about to come up, you might see early there too. So people have found this really valuable. It gets opened by most of our readers every 2 weeks. And if you need any help signing up, feel free to reach out to us. My phone number is listed at the top of the sheet. And at the very bottom of the sheet is the phone number for our executive assistant in the city administration office, Michelle Beasley. She's another person I would point out is an incredible resource for if you're just not sure where to go, what you need help with, give her a call and she'll point you in the right direction or help you get it done. On the print newsletter side, we're really fortunate, and maybe Ryan might touch on this when Director Summer from the Parks and Recreation Department might touch on this when he talks, but their seniority program at Parks and Rec does a quarterly print newsletter. So if you're not wanting to get email newsletters, that's a good way to get connected with what the seniority program's up to and other city news that might get filtered through that newsletter. That gets mailed quarterly, and you can sign up by calling Parks and Rec at the number on the sheet or by visiting the community center, which is located at 75 Franklin Street. We also manage community television for the city. As I mentioned briefly earlier, we broadcast and live stream city council, planning board, and then connect our school department with broadcasting and live streaming the school board meetings. So those happen roughly 3 times a month, each board. You can watch those on your TV on channel 3 or channel 1301 on Spectrum. You can also watch them live on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, and directly on our website on each agenda page. We do submit press releases to local newspapers and local news websites. When I drafted this outline for talking here, I mentioned the Courier, which is listed here, and some of you may have heard the news. That same day, I read the news of how they're going to be ending print publication, which is really too bad for staying connected with people who don't want to read their news online. They want to get it in a newspaper, and they want to be able to get that in a way that's local for them. So while it is still in print, I recommend it as a good place to look. When we have stuff that we feel is important that everyone in the community should know, we submit a press release to them. And whenever necessary, we also buy advertising for public notices for things such as public hearings. Those also go in the Portland Press Herald. So that's another, that we'll keep our fingers crossed that will stay in print for a long, long time. And you'd see notices there as well. Our news section on our website, everything that would get sent out as a press release is also there. So if you just go to sacomaine.org/news, you'll find a chronological list of all our recent news announcements. We update that frequently, and we keep our news postings live until they're no longer relevant. So typically we keep a news post up for a year and then start to remove ones that aren't currently relevant anymore. Alongside news on the website, you can find our city calendar. So sacomaine.org/calendar will take you to all of the upcoming events, public meetings from boards and committees onto the city council, onto summer events on Main Street or Camp Ellis Harbor Fest coming up this summer. If you see something in public infrastructure that you'd like to have addressed, there is an online reporting tool for public works. It's written here, sacomaine.org/iwork, IWORQ. If you don't want to get on and create a ticket in some online system, Saco Public Works can also be called directly, and their admin there will help you take care of that. My middle name is Wood, so I'm gonna knock on myself when I say this, but there's a parking ban notification system that we have as well. Hopefully we won't have any more this year. We had a brush with it this weekend. But to sign up for parking ban email alerts, you can go to sacomaine.org/parking ban. Again, if you don't want to deal with any of that online stuff, we do have a parking ban phone hotline. So you can call 207-282-SNOW, 7669. At any time through the year, even in the summer. I tell my family that if they want to hear my voice in the summer from the Midwest, they can call 282-SNOW. And it'll always say if there's an active ban or an upcoming ban. And so that's a good way to check, hey, do I need to try to figure out parking? Do I need to look out for any preparation for a snowstorm in that regard? On social media, we're at City of Saco Government on Facebook, saco.maine on Instagram, and City of Saco on YouTube. So if you're on any of those platforms, feel free to connect with us there. We especially appreciate people who want to share the information we're sharing with others so that we can reach more residents. Throughout the year, we have hundreds of thousands of impressions. So for a 20,000 person town, we do feel like it's a really nice community hub for people to learn about what's going on in their city. City council meetings are another important way to stay connected with your local government. We do have an email notification system for when new agendas are published. So sacomaine.org/e-notify will allow you to sign up for either text message or email alerts anytime a city council meeting agenda is published or updated. Same with planning board and a few other boards and committees. So you can go on there and manage your subscriptions yourself. But as I went through this sheet of paper, there are a lot of links, a lot of websites. I just want to reiterate one more time that if you're not comfortable with any of that, call my number. I'll help get you signed up, and we'll make sure that you can stay connected with whatever method you prefer. And then lastly, I'll just reiterate one more time that the executive assistant, Michelle Beasley, is an excellent resource for you. If you ever call my number and I'm not there to pick up and help you out, try calling Michelle Beasley in city administration, and she'll be there for you. Are there any questions on these communications resources that I just sped through? One question in the back.
Hi. I remember 10 years ago when I went on the website and looked at the calendar and there was nothing on it. You guys have done fantastic work in putting together the website, the communication, putting the town meetings online. I mean, it's incredible. Again, for a 20,000 person city, this is pretty amazing.
I appreciate you sharing that. And we do try hard to make sure that we're communicating everything that's going on that's relevant to people. You said it, 20,000 person town, but there's a lot going on here. Week in, week out, all year long, not just in the summer when things are busy. So if there's ever a way you feel we could be doing better, or a hole you think that we need to fill in that area, please reach out to us. Anyone else? Thank you for your time.
You can hear me. I'll be loud enough. Thank you for that. How many of you people know where the shelter is? How many people know we even have a shelter? So hopefully our next speaker will enlighten you. So with no further ado, Ryan Summers, Executive Director of Saco Parks and Rec.
Well, excuse me. Good afternoon. Again, I'm Ryan Summer. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Saco. This is my second tour back here. I was back here in '98 to 2003 and came back beginning in 2018. As it seems like in this room not well aware, the emergency shelter is located at 75 Franklin Street. For most people, understand that facility is the community center as well. That is a facility that has the backup generator to oversee if there is a loss of power in the city or on Franklin Street, that we are able to continue to operate. For us, and I'm going to apologize, I'm a nervous sitter when I talk, so I'm going to stand up because for me it's not comfortable. For us, hopefully you'll never come see us as an emergency shelter, but when you do, there's many things that you need to know and to bring with you. Obviously, the first point is make sure that you bring everything from home that you need: your medication, your clothing, your books, your games, things that you want to throw in there to keep active. We have activities, we have puzzles, we have everything that you need. But again, you want to be as comfortable as you are from home. And before we get to the emergency shelter, kind of how it works, probably 3 to 5 days out, the emergency management team led by Chief will begin to sit down and begin to understand what the storm's going to bring to us, and what we actually need to have in place, and what we kind of need to do and kind of get together. And really about between 1 and 3 days out, we'll begin to determine if a shelter is something that we need to open up, we need to consider. And it's not just an overnight shelter, but is it a warming shelter? It is a cooling center. What kind of shelter are we operating here? And then as the storm kind of unfolds, depending on the weather and the severity of the storm, it might be an immediate, or it might be something after the storm kind of goes through, especially if like an ice storm or a snowstorm. You don't want to put somebody on the roads that is more apt to cause, again, to an accident before you get there. If for whatever reason the community center is called on to be a shelter, it kind of goes in twofold. So when we talk about like a warming center or a cooling center, what will happen is a room or multiple rooms be kind of created to allow people to come in during hours of operation. For us, our hours of operation is pretty much 7:30 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, Monday through Friday. On the weekends, the hours might be a little bit different, but for the most part, we'll open every morning about 7:30, 8 o'clock, and we'll go until about 7:30, 8 o'clock. But if we need to extend it, we will have staff there to extend it. And on a warming center or a cooling center, we'll have coffee, we'll have snacks, we'll have activities, we'll have the TV going, things to make you comfortable for the day, to meet the needs that you might need from us. The last time, and I know Chief can help me out because I wasn't here, the last time the city was actually a full-blown shelter was what year?
In 2003, 2004 during an ice storm. It's like a 3 or 4 day event, yeah.
So you're looking about 20 years, and hopefully we've got 20 more years. But when the shelter does get opened up to an overnight shelter, we have about 140 cots at the shelter. We have cages or crates for dogs and cats. So again, animals are very much welcomed at the shelter. If you have a crate that you're able to bring to help us, that would be great as well. Please note that your animals will not be with you in the sense of next to you. They will be put in a specific room. So our rooms are kind of divided up. So the bedroom, as we're going to call it, will be how many people do yoga and dance classes and stuff like that at the community center, exercise classes. So in the cheer bay, when you come in off the gym, we have what's called the cheer bay. That's kind of where the bedroom is going to be set up. That's where the cots will be set up. The gym itself would be more of an active area, as well as a dining room, because it'd be close to the kitchen. Pretty much how we set up for the Thanksgiving dinner and the breakfast with Santa. We'll have quiet rooms going down the hall that you can sit there and do puzzles and games and activities. We'll also use room 203 and so forth that we'll have available for depending on how many people are there. But the animals will be off a little bit. The community center has a commercial kitchen. We have a staff member who is so safe on our staff. The Saco Age Friendly has been gracious to do a lot of our cooking for a lot of our special events. This year, the one they just did for the Spring Fling dance that they did. So we were dependent on a lot of volunteers to help us along the way to not just staff the facility, but cook and make sure that everyone is providing a space that they're comfortable with and so forth. And then as the storm kind of decreases and when it comes back to normal, the city and and the state or the York County Emergency Management Team will declare if the management is something that we still need to do. You know, so it could be a 6-hour, 12-hour, just a warming center, or it very much could be opened up to the length of the storm and for what the facility needs to be for at that point. Please understand, if we are open to the warming center and cooling center, we have programs going on. So we don't shut down the community center. Now, if it is a full-blown emergency, the community center at that point will be shut down to all activities that are happening throughout the community, and it would just be an emergency shelter at that point. Those are really the two major differences.
Will there be any kind of medical facility there that if somebody has a heart attack or something, or will you get in an ambulance and go to the hospital?
So the question was, if in case of emergency, will there be emergency people at the site, or would it be more of a call 911 and you have the ambulance kind of show up? And I'm going to defer that question to Chief.
So last time we opened a shelter, like I said, it was like 2003, 2004, and we did staff a paramedic there 24/7. So if you had, needed to go to the hospital, we're going to get you to the hospital. But we would likely take that same model where we would have somebody there 24/7 to help with, if somebody had a medical emergency, they need help with their medications, if they needed help, if they're on oxygen or something like that, we would keep somebody there just to kind of keep a medical view on people. So, yeah.
With that said, there will also probably be a police officer on site too, just for safety purposes and so forth. If you have CPAP machines, if you have oxygen machines that you need to be there, make sure you bring them with you. We'll make sure that we provide the outlets and the cords that need to get to where to make sure they're operational and running. But make sure you do bring them with you. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Barring any catastrophic event, you have 140 beds. Is there a backup center that you have for? I know you only have 20,000 beds, but I mean, is there a backup center that's available?
So if it really gets to the point that we really begin to exceed our expectations, number one, we might be able to get more beds from the York County. They will come in as well. It will probably be, if it gets to that catastrophic, it will probably come off the local side of it, and it would become more American Red Cross side of a emergency shelter at that point. So they would be bringing in some of their equipment as well and some of their bedding and so forth. But that would still take your local volunteers to help run that shelter for them. Yes, ma'am.
Would you accept food from people's homes if you're open for an extended period, or does it only come from your own kitchen, your own sort of state?
So the question is, would we accept food from people's homes? I would tell you I would accept it if it was canned. I wouldn't accept it if it was fresh, because I don't know the date when it was cooked and when it was. So that way it really takes care of the lack of the ability to know if it's gone bad or so forth. But if it was canned, if we can do spaghetti, stuff like that, yeah, we would do stuff like that. But we would, again, if we were in a shelter, we as a city, we would go out and begin to do a lot of shopping. So we would have backups. We would go get groceries. We would make sure we can do spaghetti dinners, things that we can cook quickly that are pretty easy to make. That won't be gourmet by any means, but I promise you won't go hungry.
Dunkin' Donuts.
There you go. We're good making coffee. But really, hopefully, again, there is a place for us if there ever is a need to come to bring the community together in an emergency. We would be there with the doors open. We would make sure that everyone is cared for, is safe, is taken care of, all their needs and so forth. And again, make sure you bring your animals. They're just as important as family members. Probably sometimes more important.
I got a question for you.
So,
We're talking about having to evacuate our homes to go to the shelter. What happens in the event if we're told shelter in place? Will the city help at all in any way, distributing food or anything like that?
That's a good question.
So I didn't mean.
That'd be something we would probably have to begin to discuss, because again, if your emergency shelter in place, it might be based on the weather or so forth. If it is a emergency shelter in place that we had, a year and a half ago, where there's some people in town that are kind of running the streets, those are, you lock your doors and we'll get there when we get there. But if it's more based on the weather, shelter in place, at some point they're probably going to ask you to come to the center. But it'll be something that the chief and the emergency management team will begin to. That's a very good question. It's never been brought to our attention.
It is a great question. So a shelter in place, I mean, I can't think of any times we've had to do that, for a very short period of time, but for a weather-related incident. But, the thing to remember as well is if you're doing a shelter in place because of weather, EMS and police they're going to have trouble getting to you. And it's the weather, it's, down power lines, it's down tree lines. So, again, we've seen some pretty horrific ice storms over the years. It's really, when we talk about being prepared, this is kind of where these discussions start. So we will do everything we can to get to you, but just realize there may be a point in time, especially, on coastal storms and things like that, we may not be able to get to you just because we don't have access, to get ambulances and engines, through a foot of water or 2 feet of water while high tide's up. So if you have the ability to kind of relocate and kind of, especially during high tide, maybe go to a neighbor's or a family, I would absolutely encourage you to take that opportunity, because we are limited. Kind of once the high tide comes in, we're at the mercy of the storm as well.
Ma'am, you had a question?
I was just going to say, is there a place where someone could sign up to be a volunteer in the event of that? Like, do you have a running list? Or?
We do a little bit, in the sense of some of the people who are on the sheltering committee. We've kind of got a good group, but if you're interested, you can definitely email me or give me a call at the community center. I'll put your name on the list and so forth. So yes, anybody who's willing to help out, we would love to have the people there to give us a hand. So how are you going to know if we're having a warming center or a cooling center or for emergency? And it's really this gentleman and his organization. They give out the information in multiple ways. Again, not just on the Facebook, Instagram, Code Red. They really try to get out the information. Really, if we know we're going to do it, they're going to get the information out early about what time it's open, what time it's going to happen, and so forth. So they're the communication department is very much involved in making sure the information does get out to the citizens.
And I skipped over the paragraph on the sheet, but there is mention of that. The news section of our website would be the place to go check if you're not sure something like that is going to be put in place. But there is also the main emergency management agency, and it's from 7:30 to 5 during weekdays. You can call the number we listed here for them, and they can tell you if Saco has a shelter or warming center open, as well as if there are any regionally that have been opened by the county or by other neighboring municipalities. So that's another great resource, main emergency management agency.
Yes, sir.
Yes, for people who have animals that they need to bring to the shelter, would you prefer that if possible they also bring food for the animals with them?
That would be great. Not every animal eats the same dog food or cat food. So if you do have the ability, especially in your package, to have a little bit of food in there that you can feed them, that's a wonderful idea. There will be some there on site. But again, it might not be what your dog or cat might eat or like. Yes, ma'am.
If there was, say, political unrest going on and things were happening, would you be better off staying in your house or going to a shelter, or would you depend on emergency services to let us know what to do?
What do you mean by political unrest? Before I step into this question.
I don't know if the banks suddenly were not working and people are getting, angry and you know, or people are, something's not working and you're seeing people going into the supermarket and trying to loot or something, what do you do?
So at that point, it really becomes more, and you know, sadly, I'll sidestep this question a little bit. It becomes more of less of a shelter and more of a policing matter than it does for us. If something like that is happening, to be in all honesty with you, it's more. I'm going to honestly say you're probably better off to be shelter in place than you would be to come to the community center for an emergency shelter, because it really changes the scope of it. You know, we are there to help provide a service to make sure that all your needs are being met during a time of usually a weather engagement type of situation, not a police matter. But if that was there, you would get notification, and my guess is it would probably be shelter in place. But that's another good question. All these good questions we need to think about. Yes, sir.
Yeah, do we have any weather-dependent systems locally called the homeless?
Do we have any weather dependence? I'm going to turn that over to you.
Well, of course, they can use the services here, the emergency shelter services that would be put in place. Biddeford does have a overnight stay location, and also they can come and reach out to me at the police department. Law enforcement is excellent in having those conversations when they're interacting with community members, so they can open up the doors for resources and having conversations. And really, I explore a lot of different things, whether that's friends, families, do you need transportation, letting them know what the options are and what they might look like, and trying to get them there. And sometimes that's just a bag of food that they may want, but really trying to meet their needs as best as we can.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
It may be more for the chief, but do I remember at one time where you had a lockbox system? Say somebody called 911 and they can't get to the door, and there was a system where you had, I don't remember exactly all the dynamics.
Yeah, you just exactly a Knox box. So it's a residential Knox box. So and funny, Rebecca and I were just talking about these before today's session. So there is it's called a residential Knox box. So it would basically be attached to your home, and it would have your residential keys in it. So we call it the key to the city. So anybody that has a residential or a commercial Knox box, if we need to get into the building, we have a key that opens the Knox box itself. And inside the box has the keys to get in either to the residential or the commercial facility. So we're looking to probably push some information out on that, and I can probably get something communications, and maybe it's something I can work with Andrew. The fire department's also going to be doing an open house in early May, I think May 10th, and we can make some of that information available for residential Knox box as well. You're welcome. Thank you.
I would just add that if you are interested in a Knox box, Age Friendly Saco's Handy Neighbors program would help install those for your homes. So,
I'm sorry, pass that by me.
Age Friendly Saco, their Handy Neighbors program,
Yeah.
they would actually come and install a Knox box for you.
Okay.
And I think the cost, the last time I checked, was about $230
Yeah.
or something like that for a Knox box. Yeah.
If there's no more question with emergency shelters or anything else, I'm going to turn it over to, do you want me to introduce? Sophia, who is the director of the Dyer Library and Museum.
Hi, everybody. So I am here to sort of, I guess, clean up and talk a little bit about the something we've referred to a lot through all of this, but a little more specifically is sort of the social support network that you have built within the community. In your envelopes, you'll have a piece of homework that looks like this nice circular document here. And this is a social support map where you can sort of plot out where you are, what resources you have available to you in case of an emergency. So perhaps you just need to write down, like your closest family member. They may not be your favorite family member, but who's your closest family member? Write their name down in sort of the supportive family category. Who are the people who live a little further away who might be able to provide you a little bit of extra support? Or do you have friends from church or a community group or yoga class that would be a good resource to reach out to in another event? A lot of the resources that we've talked about today are more sort of that third tier resource, the sort of like structural city resources that are available to you. But thinking about those circles that are a little bit closer are really important, especially if you live somewhere with neighbors who take off for Florida for all the bad weather. Who's actually nearby you when that weather happens? Are you the only one in your neighborhood for all of February? I know my parents are, so I'm always worried about them during those storms. Are you? Do you know who the nearest person around you with a generator is? Taking the time to make that list and kind of write some of that information down for yourself can be really helpful. So when you're in a stressful moment, you can look back and sort of say, okay, these are the people I know, and the people I can rely on if I have a question. I think to that end as well, having that conversation with your close by neighbors or family about, what it would look if there was a sheltering situation. Would you rather go stay in someone's guest room, or would you rather be in your 6-foot square space in the community center? At the end of the day, it's probably a little more comfortable to be in a familiar environment and leave those spaces for those who really don't have another place to draw upon. So having those conversations with folks early can be really helpful. And I also think it's a good thing to think about in reverse. So who are people in your life who maybe are a little disconnected from this social infrastructure around you? Is there somebody who doesn't have a ton of extra support in the neighborhood? Could you make a point of giving them this map and talking it through with them, or making a point of checking in with them in the case of an emergency? Providing that sort of social infrastructure to an emergency scenario is helpful with what builds the community resilience that we need to sort of work through all of these scenarios. And also for who we can kind of rely on 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, when we're still kind of processing through some of what might have happened. If you're still, trying to get that tree dealt with that fell down on your power line, and, it just takes forever to, you're last in line on the tree guys list, you may be a little while before everything kind of gets cleaned up. So having those resources available to you and sort of somewhere handy where you can find them is good. So it may seem like overkill. You say, I know my friends, I know my family, I have all that information. But taking the time to write it out and list the contact information is a really good avenue. And again, this is something that can easily be folded up and tucked into that sort of emergency plastic sleeve that goes on your fridge, or put into the emergency kit, just so you have those resources at your fingertips. If you get disconnected from your cell phone, I saw a joke online recently that, I can recite my best friend's number from 7th grade, but could I tell you my mom's number now? No, I could not, because we just have gotten so used to using electronic devices to communicate that information. So having it written out in the case that you're using someone else's device can be really, really helpful. To that end, I think, making sure that we acknowledge all of the wonderful supports that are out there, and we all have sort of identified an individual plan of action for these emergencies. It's not a one-size-fits-all scenario. We all have very different circumstances that go into this. One of the big packets in your folder is also an official sort of FEMA emergency guide, which has a lot more step-by-step, think it through, all of the various questions that you might need to go through to sort of customize a plan for yourself. So it's great to do individually. All of you are here already, so I'm not too worried about anyone in this room, because you already made the point of coming to a program to learn more. But it's everyone else in the community that needs the support. So making sure that you've sort of thought it through with everyone in together, so we're all keeping each other safe. And with that, I'll hand it back to Joe.
I was told I needed to use this for the recording. Another hack, so they say, 3 gallons of water per person per day. So, I mean, if you're stuck in the house, well, I live out in the country. So before I did not have a generator before the 2003 ice storm. And I think my wife was ready to leave me. She thought I was too cheap. So needless to say, I have a generator. But if I don't have power, I don't have water at my house. And so some people would be stuck in that situation. So we've got something in our kits that I'm going to hand out to help you with that. Does anybody want to take a quick break, or do you want to just dive right in and get these kits? Let's dive right in. All right, sounds good. So anyways, like I said, these kits were the result of a grant that we received from Age Friendly Saco received to provide you with this. The whole idea is, at the end of the day, we don't want you to be a disaster during a disaster. And that was something I had heard at one of these meetings that I had attended a while ago. And it makes a lot of sense, because we have limited resources in this 20,000 person city, and they can only be so many places at so many times. So we really want you to be prepared. We want you to be resilient. But it's great to know that we have the support of this community. I'm always blown away at how many resources are available to us as residents of Saco. So we really should be thankful for that. So, you know those talk shows where they have an author on, or they have someone on, and the host says, everybody's getting a book today. Well, everybody's getting a pack today. So we have these packs, and we'll be handing them out. I just want to go through some of these items that are in here to let you know, and there's quite a few. Oh, this thing's jammed. So in the event of a power outage, how do you stay informed? Especially if your phone's dead and all of that other good stuff. How do you know what's going on? How are you going to be able to tell what's going on? We have a crank radio that you're all going to get in this package today. It's an AM/FM weather band radio. It has a flashlight in it. Actually, a couple of flashlights, one there and one on the end. The great thing about this is it also comes with a cord to charge a phone. I don't know if that one's still in that box, but take a look at it when you get home. If you don't have the right cable for your phone connection, you're going to be out of luck. But this will allow you to... But this is going to... There is. But this is going to allow you to charge your phone, charge your tablet, or whatever you need to do beyond just trying to find out what's going on weather-wise. So that's in there. This is one of my favorite things. So I'm always playing with it at the house. No power. We gave you a mechanical can opener if you need to open cans. This is hard to do with just one hand. You also are all going to get this lantern-type flashlight that when you lift it up, it lights up. It's LED. Now, when you get this, there are 3 batteries in the bottom. You screw off the bottom. There's a little piece of plastic between the battery and the connector, so it's not drawing on the battery. So if you need it, remember, you're going to have to unscrew that and take that little piece of plastic out. So that's in there. No, these are 3 AA batteries that are in here. So you may want to have an extra pack of batteries in your pack. And again, this is just a starter kit. So, we didn't even talk about having food available, things like that. If you went to my house years ago, there'd be like that old bag of walnuts that everybody's got in their cupboard. A whistle. If you've got to get somebody's attention, this is a great device to have, a whistle. We talked about having your medication available. We're going to put in a little pill vial case in there so you can put a week's worth of medication in there. First aid kit, which is great. A personal hygiene kit. So it comes with a face cloth, some shampoo, some soap, some things, some toothpaste, things like that. So in the event that you need this stuff, because I don't know, do you have this stuff at the shelter? There you go. So if you want to be around a bunch of smelly people, unbathed, unwashed, an emergency blanket, one of those high-tech foil blankets. And this is another cool device. This is called the life straw. And in the event you didn't have clean water, you essentially put the end of this in the water and just sip through and you'll get purified water. So in the event you don't have water available to you. Did I get everything in here? I think I did. Oh, and the most important thing of all, a stress ball. So, so when you're going crazy, you can just sit there and squeeze this thing. But again, these are all for you today to take home. Go through them when you get home. Take the radio and fool around with it, figure out how it works, because the last thing you want to do is try and figure out how this thing works when you don't have any power and you're already stressed out as it is. So make sure you take that out and fool around with that radio. Other than that, you have all kinds of information in the packets that we gave you. There's a bunch of age-friendly information in there as well, kitchen magnets, things like that. We gave you this really sweet slide device that's in there, like a pocket slide thing from back when you were in school. And if you pull it, you can section it. So, like, for example, there's an earthquake. You put earthquake in the little open panel, and it tells you next to it what you should be doing during an earthquake. Which, you know, we normally joke about that, but I went to one of these emergency sessions in New York 2 months ago, and they had just had that earthquake. You know, and they were waiting for the tsunami. But anyways, you've got it in your hand right there, but there's a bunch of information on that. It's sort of a neat little thing to have, and we got that from Strength in Maine. So with that, we can start handing these out to all of you folks. Again, I want to thank you all for coming, and you're already one step ahead of a lot of other people who are just totally unprepared. At least when you leave here today, you all know where the shelter is if you have to go. A lot of you didn't even know we had one or where it was. So I want to thank our panel for doing these 3 sessions for Age Friendly Saco. You guys have been great. I really appreciate it. So without does anybody have any questions before we start handing out these bags and we conclude today's session? Yes.
How do we keep these bags in our home?
Like the fire chief said, keep it near your bed, or, you know, somewhere, a common, by the door. Yeah. On a hook. Yeah. I mean, the whole idea, and again, you may want to go through this because you might have some medical information in there. If you have this pill vial filled up, you know, you may want to check that regularly, things like that. So other than that, you should be really good to go with this pack. And add some other things to this pack. It's kind of full now, but you can still fit a few more things in there. So with that being said, why don't we just start handing these things out? I thank you all for coming. Keep an eye out for other age-friendly Saco happenings. We do our monthly community luncheons at the Elks Club. I hope you're all getting the age-friendly Saco newsletter. Are you all getting the newsletter? I'm assuming you are because you're here today. If not, let us know because we really want to add you to the list. Well, without any further ado, let's hand these bags out then. And again, thank you all for coming.